Stories have always fascinated me. There is nothing like reading a good book. Hooked to it for several days is what anyone would desire, if only work took care of itself. Good morning, viewers. We are back with another chapter of our chat show on popular demand, but this time with the authors. In this series, we will be having conversation with various writers of our state to know about their inspiration, passion, and struggle towards their success. With this, I hope many writers who has their work in manuscript would get inspiration to bring their writing into book. So without further ado, let me introduce you all to our very first guest, who is a multi-talented lady, a beauty queen, an officer, and of course, an author, Miss Subi Taba. Welcome to the show, Subi.
Thank you so much for your lovely introduction.
So, like I mentioned in our introduction, you have many laurels to your back. So how did you go about it? Did it came to you naturally, or you had to constantly, step out of your comfort zone to keep challenging yourself? Please enlighten us.
I would say that since childhood, I was very interested in diverse activities. When I was young, I would love watching movies. I loved dancing. I loved singing. I also loved playing sports, and because of my group of friends, I think, and my parental pressure, I did well in studies also.
Okay.
So I wanted to try everything, and I was interested in everything since childhood.
Okay.
Until today, if I get time and chance, I want to try everything. So because of this diverse activity, I was also interested in cultural activities, and that beauty contest and all. I consider that a part of cultural activities. In college, we did this Miss Freshers meet and all.
Okay.
So that was my first experience, but my first experience in beauty pageant, it happened in 2010 when during a vacation I decided to try for this Miss Is Coming.
Yes, that was the first one.
Yeah, that was the first one, and
in a public platform.
Yeah, and I never had any experience before that.
Okay.
So I tried that, and then actually I won that pageant, and then after that I got another opportunity where the state was hosting this Miss Arunachal Pradesh something, but conducted by APSU. So that was Miss APSU.
So at that time it was known as Miss APSU?
No, they have different organizers. Miss Arunachal, and then there were even Miss Beauty of Arunachal, then there was Miss Princess, as you have seen, there's Miss Capital, there are a lot of different organizers. So during that time I won, but in first runners-up.
Okay.
And after that I also tried Miss Northeast.
Yes, I saw that Miss Northeast part.
Besides all these other interests, I was also interested in writing. I always used to write diaries since my childhood.
Yes.
And I also scribbled some poetry and all. So in 2013, I decided to, publish my poetry. And that also happened because I was also influenced by other senior poets. Sometimes when we are writing on our own, we don't have any idea what to do next. So,
yes, exactly.
So I had some senior poets who were performing their poetry, who were also publishing their poetry.
So this happened when you were still in university, right?
Yeah.
So did you get any guidance from seniors, like how to write about it? Or because I think many beginners, they will be so conscious about to show their work to anybody, I think, for that matter. Forget about client alone, because they'll think that you'll be judged. ये क्या लिखा है, ऐसा थोड़ी ना होता है. So did it came to you, or did you had any guardian angel kind of thing?
During my school time, though I used to write poetry, but it was just there. It will be just lying in a diary. But when I joined college and university, I got into that poetry writing and essay writing competitions every year. And I started winning a lot. So that kind of gave me the practice. And the competitions they used to have were like on-the-spot competition. Like there will be poetry competition, there will be students who wanted to take part in poetry competition. They'll just give any topic like nature, or they'll give love or trust, any topic. They'll just give one word and you have to write one poem in half an hour.
Okay.
So that was very interesting. And even essay competition used to happen like that. They'll just give any topic and you have to write at the moment. That kind of like kept me going in writing besides my academic and other activities. And after, when I was ending university, I decided to, you know, publish my poetry and all.
That is great. So I was thinking, like, since you are a successful officer, at that time, like, you already have a job, I mean to say, like, so, you know, like, that's a backbone. Your parents do not need to worry about, abhi kya karenge bache, sirf kitab thodi na likh ke baithenge. So, were they supportive when you were, like, initially starting off with writing?
No, no. Actually, when
even I wouldn't.
I was a science student, so for a science student, I found my class 11 and 12 the hardest exams of my entire life. It's really tough, you know, science, physics, chemistry, biology. So we have to give a lot of like time and effort in studying the theories and formulas written by the scientists who won like Nobel Prizes and all. So yeah, I used to write a lot, and my dad used to always say, you can write it later, like that. So this thing has always been there in my life, like this balance, this need to balance. Like if I invest so much time in my studies, I have to leave the reading and writing. And if I invest so much time in reading and writing, then I get away from my work. So this is a tricky balance, like, and it's
you had to maintain.
Yeah, difficult. Still now I have to like balance it. I have my work and office. And if I get too much into writing, I forget that. And sometimes if I work so much, I forget the other one. So it's like having like a wife and a mistress.
Okay, so you need to sometimes escape from one to attend the other. Okay, that's quite interesting. So you said like you were from science background. So was it because like your parents forced you, or I mean they inclined you to go towards science? That's every parents, they wish, you know, sab log engineer ban jao, doctor ban jao. Even I would say that to my children. So was it because they were like more into that side, or is it your wish, like you went there and you were not clear about your career at that time?
I always wanted to get into science because I feel like arts is a subject which we can master ourselves. We can like buy books, read it, and if you have good English, anyone can master in arts. But science is something a bit tougher, I feel like, than arts to master without a proper guidance and teacher. So I decided to study science.
Now coming back to our today's topic again, that was very enlightening, of course, to know. Like you have written Dear Bohemian, that collection of poetry. So how many days it took you? How many, like, since how many years you were writing? How long it took you to bring it to book?
Yeah, like I told you, I had been writing since my class 7th, 8th standard. So some of the poems in that book are from those days.
Okay.
So, and some were during my college and some were during my university. So I already had that raw material from school, from my college, and some there are 2 poems in the collection which is also like the poems which I wrote in those university competitions and which won prizes. So there are 2 poems in that which are from my university competitions. So I already had all the raw material, I just had to edit it. So I think it took around 2 months.
2 months. Yeah. Okay, that's great. So now the readers will get to, you know, like get many flavors from the childhood, because there will be variant, na? If you listen. So the next was short stories, which was published in 2021.
No, actually short stories, I have my short story published in different like anthologies.
Oh, okay.
And then recently we had one anthology which was published by Juban Publishers Delhi, which is a collection of all the women writers. So I have my short story published there, and in other like competitions also. So it's like there are different publishers, but I'm planning to like compile it into a single book.
Yes, I would suggest, because like the one who is like fond of following you, or readers who are fond of reading your work, they would like to get it in one book. But of course, like getting in Juban and all these things also, like that is an achievement altogether, different kind of. So I read in column that you won this Asia Pacific, sorry, I forgot that thing, award. New Asian Writer Series. Yes. Short story competition. So how did that come? Did you have to apply it for those things, or actually how is this done?
Okay. Actually, my first short story which I wrote, the name is The Spirit of the Forest,
yes,
which is the story published by Juvan. But this story, A Night with the Tiger, which actually won the New Asian Short Story Prize, this is the first story that got published. Because the publication process, it takes time in a book form, but this was published online.
Okay.
After the pandemic started, I was home with my parents. So actually I got a lot of time to work on my writing because there was no office. So I started joining these writing workshops. Actually, one I would like to highlight is that writing workshop by Himalayan Writing Retreat.
Okay.
So I had a good short story workshop with them, and there's like November National Novel Writing Month, something like that.
Okay.
So I had this.
So it's like a springtime of the of the writers.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had already developed a community, small community of writers who are also like struggling to finish their first manuscript.
Okay.
So in that community, someone shared about this blog and all where they have competitions like this. I had this story in my mind. This is a story orally told by my mom, but then I twisted it and just added more elements from my side.
Of course.
So in November, I wrote that just for this competition.
Okay.
There were like certain word limit also, like some story competition, they will have 5,000 word limit, some will have 6, 7, 8, like that. So I submitted it in November.
Okay.
Yeah, and the results came out in January.
Oh, that's quite interesting. Now, I would also want to know about South Asia Speaks Fellowship. So, how is that connected to you again?
This is also my own discovery. Actually, the Southeast Asia Speaks Fellowship started in 2020. And we are one of the first batch, 2021. So it is started by a writer named Sonia Fellerio. She started this community where they are hosting this program where writers, early career writers who have not published any book yet, except for poetry and some short stories. They will be keeping one mentor each for the new writers, which are called mentees, mentors and mentees. And all the mentors are like prize-winning authors. There are some mentors who have even shortlisted for like Booker Prize and all. Some whose books have been like made into movies. So all the established writers, they will choose one mentee and then they will guide them, read their work till they are like ready for publishing their work. So is this for free or like? Yeah, this is for free. Wow, but that's such a good novel. And it is a year-long like project. Year-long it continues, Yeah, so this is very nice. And my mentor is Aruni Kashyap. He's a writer from Assam, and he is taking new writers from Northeast only. So under him, me and one more girl is there. So basically he guides us, and then he reads our work and gives comments like, try to write it better like this, or you can try this. And what are the more stories, like short stories we can read from your from your work? Because of this, you know, being guided by a mentor, you are like, I'm supposed to submit to him one story per month. So that you know, accountability and then pressure is there to submit, you know, per month. That's why maybe I have written like maybe around 10, 11 short stories since the pandemic started. Wow, that is a lot. Could you read us one now, like if we have distinct time? Yeah, sure, definitely. So this short story, it's called The Last Priest. It is actually it is already published in an anthology called Where the Kingfisher Sings. Actually, this short story is also shortlisted for Twist and Twin short story competition, whose result will come out in next year maybe, or maybe in December. It is a story set in the village in East Kameng district, and it is a story about a priest who's trying to continue following the animism religion that we have, Doni Polo. But then these days, due to like modern interventions and cultural appropriation, like churches and temples, people have started following like Christianity and all, and people have started living Doni Polo. And in few years' time, like people won't even know what Doni Polo was.
Sadly, they won't. I feel that.
So this story is an attempt to, you know, like it's not like giving a lecture or something, but then just a situation a priest will face after realizing losing his importance these days. Because in the old times, priests used to have high importance in the society.
Exactly, that's very true.
So this is just the like the last one of the last paragraph.
Okay.
That night in his bamboo hut, the priest took out his old satchel from his wooden trunk. The packed satchel that had missed an intended journey 45 years ago. The years had outgrown the small school uniform, and the pages of notebooks had crumpled and aged like him. He wet his index finger with his saliva and flipped the pages. The words greeted him with invariable sameness. He smiled with a glint of tears, looking at his boyhood handwriting. The notebooks were his last souvenirs of school life. He held the notebooks, cradling them over his lap, and sat near the warmth of the fire hearth, hearing his wife softly hum a mountain song as she brewed warm rice beer for him. He stared long at the fairy, uninhibited dancing flames, and felt the house dissolving like dreams. Life at that moment seemed like a floating reverie between the things he could achieve in his life and the things he could not achieve. In that silent darkness, he saw the stoic tribal faces of his ancestors rising from their graves, their emaciated bodies laden with stories in their spines, stamping on the earthy realms, initiating spirit dance around the fire hearth. The ancient spirits arched their backs, leaning to whisper, "We are here, we are within you." Tagingbo, sitting by the fire, started humming soft, rhythmic chants that rose along with the smoke rising up above the thatched roof of his bamboo hut, standing on the dark, forgotten mountains of the east. He said, "I, Tagingbo, the last priest of Fangche village, pledge under the shadow of this ardent fire that as long as I haven't crawled under this humble earth, I will live on to serve as an identity to sustain the story of my tribesmen, the smoky diasporas of our mountain lives, and will uphold the impressible name of Doni Polo, the god that our ancestors once used to worship."
Wow, that was amazing. That was amazing. I could literally imagine, was lost in that thing, the smoke coming out of the thatch and all. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
So now I'll be definitely searching for your book to complete the story. That was so beautifully done.
Thank
so
you.
now, like, you read so nicely and your English is quite good. It's understandable, but not many of us. I mean, like, we tribal people, I feel like Northeasterns, we have this, you know, like, MTI. Actually, everyone has, and especially we have that you know, like, I think especially with certain words like as, see, it is like, you know, we drag along. So do you practice any tongue twister you would suggest or practice for, you know, to make the orator sound clearly? Because that's the main concept, you know, like, especially when we speak, or I think for you to read, you might be getting called to read in various events. That what do you do to sound it like vocal clearly and like words come out without lisp and all?
I would suggest that mastering one's voice modulation.
Okay.
I personally, I don't have a very good voice. I feel like those people who can sing and act. You know, there's a lot of difference between an actor modulating his voice according to the emotions he's feeling than a normal person.
That's true.
A normal
That's
person
true.
will just say, I had a bad day, but then an actor says it with different accent and action. I don't know how to master that well. But talking about tongue twisters, during our childhood we had a lot of fun trying different tongue twisters.
Yes, we do. So, do you have any?
Yeah. I have Betty bought a butter, but the butter was bitter.
Okay.
So Betty bought another butter to make the bitter butter better.
Oh, that's difficult one. I'll try.
Okay.
Betty bought a butter, bitter. Butter.
Okay. Betty bought a butter.
Betty bought a butter.
But the butter was bitter.
But the butter was better. So now it's getting more and more. Okay.
So you just have to understand. Okay, Betty bought a butter.
Okay.
But the butter was bitter.
Bitter. Okay.
So Betty bought another butter to make the bitter butter better.
To make the bitter butter better. No doubt it is a tongue twister. No wonder it is called tongue twister, and better leave it for the writers. This conversation has been amazing, viewers, and we will be continuing with it, but after a short commercial break. See you again.
Sene lujo bolni no kam. Pat gombo adnek. Liuye gumdo ju ilni no kam. Oga gombo adnek. Tebie puh jarboji ni no kam tas gombo adnek. Sutu ngam podul ni ram pachi sumawak. Ni chum ni che sorab je kalapu atem sopia denek. Tochum ta che sorab je kam tabam soge denek. Budu ogek taraki.
Welcome back to the show. Today we are in conversation with Miss Subi Taba. So now it's a round for question and answer round. So getting started with the very first question is like, who edited the book for you? Because I think that's one of the most, like critical work, or that, like I said in earlier, that beginners especially, they are conscious about their work, whom to send and all. So how did you go about that?
For my poetry collection, my editor was Asim Ranjan Parhi, who is a professor in English department, and currently
he is in this RGU only.
Yeah, during that time he was in RGU, but currently he is working in Orissa. So he knew my father, and my father asked him, and he agreed to do the editing work for me.
Okay, so that's how like Bohemian, Dear Bohemian Man was that. So the next question would be like, how do you deal with the emotional breakdown? Because I think writers, they have, like you might have written certain portion and then you don't know how to go about the next part, or should I quit in the middle way? Or there might be some other emotional part. How do you deal with that?
For that, I have two strong things that pulls me along, lets me finish my work. The first one is deadlines.
Okay.
If there is certain deadline, I have to get that work done before that date, then I get that work done. Okay. And the second one is also the realization that I have to do this work and why I have to do that work. So that thought, why I have to do that work. So these are the two things which carries me along and lets me finish my work.
Okay, so that's kind of self-discipline.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Writing is all about self-discipline.
Self-discipline. Now coming to the next question, how do you deal with writer's block? I think that's most, common term we even laymen get to listen here about that. Like I think after reaching certain point, the ideas are not coming or it's not going in line with what you were planning earlier. So how do you deal with that?
For me, to get the ideas on page, I use music also. If I have a certain idea, like if I'm writing fighting or horror kind of genre, then I will listen to that kind of music. Okay. Instrumentals. It really helps me.
That sounds a bit scary also. Like maybe that would be making a sound in the middle of the night and all.
Yeah. So when I was writing that story, A Night with the Tiger,
yes,
I listened a lot of like natural, inside the jungle kind of soundtracks where there will be a owl hooting, there will be some animals making some screams at night.
Okay.
So if you are in a room and just listening to that, music somehow helps you get transported to that element.
Exactly.
So, and I think music is one of the easiest way to, you know, transport yourself to certain feeling. So I use that, and sometimes if I have writer's block, I try reading others' work in that same genre. Like if I'm writing something horror, or if I'm writing something folklore, I try to read other writers who have written on that genre. So it also helps me, you know, get new ideas on how, a simple observation or how a thing can be written in different style. So these are the things.
So for writing, do you like take leave from your work now that you are an officer? So you have to take leave and like, you know, lock away in certain rooms or like that, and go away far off places. Like, so what do you do actually generally for? How do you manage time actually?
So I would love to do that, but it's not possible. I'll probably get a so-called notice if I do that. So what I do is I wake up in the morning and I just wash my face and all, get fresh up, and I start writing. And I write till the time I have to eat something and go to work.
Okay.
So if I wake up early, lucky day. If not, sometimes I can only manage like 1 hour, half an hour writing, and then I'll get a call from work, or sometimes family works also. Yes. I have like some family responsibilities as well besides my like job responsibilities.
That's true.
So it's difficult, but I wish maybe next year I'll take like a month break, just get away somewhere and do some writing.
Yes, maybe you can take an EL and then you will write on this thing. And so now that you have said about this, and now I want to know, like in the social media world, plagiarism, I think it's very quite common, and I think even we do that, you know, sometimes Google Marlo, and you want to copy paste, or other people are like taking your work and naming it themselves. So what would you suggest? How should, you know, like this thing can be stopped, or what do you do to deal with this plagiarism?
Since I'm a very new writer, I haven't come across much, but once I came across, it was a journal or maybe an anthology, and I had also given given my poem, and one girl, she had also given my poem with her name. But then
such thing also happens.
Then it's like I don't mind much, because it's not like it's a competition and all. If the writer at that time, actually I didn't mind, because I was thinking, oh, she likes that poem, she's given
that
her
is
name.
A compliment for you rather, right?
So I was like, it's okay, no problem.
but then like when it finally comes, like the credibility, you are the rightful owner. So actually that would be quite you know, like quite shameful for them actually, not for you, but not for the writer, not for the owner, like that. No? So now keeping that aside, now how do you get, like in Arunachal, I don't think so there's publisher, are there?
Independent publishers, no. There is some officers, you know, research officers. They publish academic books based on research works done in Arunachal.
Okay, that's government established, but not the private ones.
No.
So like you have got your work published in Juwan publication, like earlier you mentioned. So how should a writer go about this, looking for publishers, or what should they do? Like because not many may be like financially sound. So what would be your suggestion on that?
So since I'm a new writer, I cannot like give big comments on that, but I can give suggestions. Like once you feel your manuscript is done, you can maybe send it to a literary agent. That's what many writers, established writers, used to suggest. And a literary agent is someone who will take your work and they will propose it to the publishers.
Okay, so not directly to the publishers, but then literary agent. Okay, there are one stages that I didn't know about.
So they'll present it to the publishers, and if your book is selected, then in traditional publishing, if they get selected, they'll contact you and all.
Okay.
and then they'll give some kind of royalty.
Okay.
And if not, like many writers who don't want to go through that process, they can also self-publish their books.
Okay.
In self-publishing, most of the royalty is like owned by you. So there are some writers who don't want to go for the traditional publishing because they get very less royalty there, maybe around 10% or less than 10% of the sales.
Okay.
And then there are some self-published writers and someone who's published their works in Amazon Kindle and all. They are earning a lot more than the traditional. So it depends on like what works for you.
Okay.
But then I would just say the more credibility in literary scene is of course when you get traditionally published. Like there are publishers like Penguin, HarperCollins and all.
Those are big names.
Yeah, big names. So if you have a good book and if you get good reviews and if you can, you know, advertise it more in the national platform, I think that will make you, you know, more famous and make your books having more chances of selling.
Yeah. But you have yours in Amazon.
Yeah.
In their Bohemian that I came across. Okay. And like I said earlier, that if my children right now would say that I want to do take up writing as a job, I would, I think, never suggest that because that's not a full time. So what do you think? Kya ye writing se ghar chalega, like can they, like, is it sustainable, do you think, that profession right now in our state especially?
If your kids are interested in writing, I would suggest to let them write because you know, not just about becoming a writer. If your kids are better in writing, they will score better in school. That's if you notice, people who mostly top in exams, they have very good literature. That's very important. If you have good English and good literature, because all the exams in India, it's held in written form and you have to write in English. So if you have good literature, if you read some history also, some geography also, the way you can digest and put it in words, it will be much better than someone who has poor or, you know, moderate English.
That's true.
That point, if your kids wants to write, let them write. And then, but then also like on your like question on if it will sustain, it's a bit debatable, but then it's like it could be or it could not be. Like there are some writers who are writing for magazines and all. I think they are paid quite well. Like famous like blogs like Huffington Post or Huffington Post or even New York, these magazines, and also like our leading like Indian newspapers and all, Times of India, they are paid quite well, I think. And if it's a fiction book, if it sells also, I'm not sure, but then like writers, like what I've heard from my mentors and all, writers like, for example, in India, Chetan Bhagat and Amish Tripathi, you know, they are doing quite well.
Yes.
Yeah. And they don't need to do a backup job to, you know, run their lives. It's not that if your book sells, you're a good writer, and if it doesn't, you're a bad writer. In India, mostly the books which have high literary merit, sometimes they don't get sold also. Sometimes people don't discover them also because the writers, they write and then most of them are like old people, most of them are that doesn't know how to use social media or they don't interact with people. So sometimes their books might get undiscovered.
That's true, because like currently our Indian demography is also like youths are, it's full of youths, and if suppose you write in highly this thing, and for that matter, Chetan Bhagat, I don't think it's like, I don't know, I'm not this thing, but he mostly focuses on the youths. His targets are youths, and so he's getting his work, you know, recognized right there. I think he's nailing his work very good. So what you said is very correct. I think no one should get discouraged that if it's not sales, that it doesn't mean this thing. So now coming to that selling part, like is there marketing scope in our state? Did your work, your books have, like it was kept in Itanagar Naharlagan ka bookstore, is it available? How do they go about this marketing part?
Marketing, I found it a bit tough. Like, and then especially getting your books to bookstores and all. Sometimes I have like lots of people who's asking for my books.
Yes.
Mostly I suggest them to buy it online.
Exactly.
Or sometimes it gets kept in bookstores. But then this marketing part is a bit this one tricky and then tough. But then it also depends on this publishers. Like in Arunachal, we have some bookstores which mostly sells books on competitive exams and
that's where we are
NCERT books. And then we have only few bookstores which have like tie-ups with the publishers who are like giving them their new published book. I don't think so there are many bookstores like that in Arunachal. So that part is a bit tricky, and for new authors, they would have to do it themselves, or maybe hire someone to do the marketing works.
Exactly. So could you tell us a few names, like your favorite authors?
Though I'm a writer, I don't read a lot, but some books that I came across, some East Asian writers that I really loved was this writer called Lisa C.
Okay, Lisa C.
Her book, The Tea Girl of Hummingbird Lane.
Okay,
that's a nice book. And even The Secret Fan of Snowflower.
Wow, those names.
Yeah, really nice
names
story.
are itself so fancy.
Yeah, so these are Chinese, Chinese Asian stories that I really enjoyed. And most of the stories and all from these regions are something we can relate so much because of our almost similar, cultural practices.
Exactly. So now coming to this thing, like when can we expect your next project?
Maybe later next year.
So one last question. Subi as writer, an officer, or a model?
Model. I have stopped, modeling a long time ago. And I would like to just add some funny memories and anecdotes from that modeling story.
Okay.
I was very interested in modeling when I was in Nagaland.
Yes.
And I had some Naga friends whom I met there, and we had joined some academy there, modeling something, Northeast like Academy of Art, something like that. And we used to have these modeling classes on how to, present yourself, how to do simple basic makeup, how to walk and all. And then during those times we used to dream I will be going to New York Fashion Week.
but you did quite well for yourself. I think from Mega Miss Northeast, I think only you so far I remembered, I don't know, but you did. But that's not, I think that's not unimaginable going to New York. I think nowadays we could do that,
Yeah, of course.
But you left it now.
Yeah, I left it because I find modeling quite hectic, and also I find it very tough physically. Because sometimes during fashion shows and all, you have to wait so long, and then there will be around 20 girls doing makeup and all, and then you don't get good sleep, and then there will be some designers who are very bitchy also, and then they will be like, he or she will be like, sometimes maybe out of their professional stress, mistreating some people, and then I just find those things very hectic and stressful.
Basically dealing with the people.
Dealing with people. I found it very stressful. That's one of the reasons I said, no, I cannot go into that. And
so you better stick to your writing part.
Yeah, writing.
More.
Yeah.
So that's
that was my long-term plan since childhood. I was like, I'll do anything, but then I have to carry forward this writing thing.
Like model and all, and your officer, we feel like you are very outgoing, you would be. But from your conversation and from what choices you make, I feel like you're more of a shy person.
I'm shy with new people.
You are shy
but with my family and close friends, I'm not. I'm a very open person. But then I'm very close to my family. So my best friends are my sisters.
Wow.
I'm very close to my sister.
Yes, you have two baby sisters, little sisters.
Yeah. Who are not very little now.
Who are not little anymore. They are all grown up. Okay. So now this has come to the end of our conversation. I would like you to read us one more poetry from your collection, because listening to your short story was amazing, and I do not want to miss this chance of listening your poem once again.
Okay, sure. This poem is from my book, Dear Bohemian Man. The title is I Want You to Be My Soul.
Okay.
It's a small poem. I have loved you since the first day of our greeting. I remember your hair like carefree waves, your eyes entrailing like the dark of the night. Your baritone voice, there was something so real and regal about it. Your presence, as powerful as archangels. Your words, it felt like rain inside my heart. And your smile, like the hippie birds in the sky. When I loved you, I transgressed from everything I ever loved because you saved me from the mediocrities of life.
Wow, that was beautiful.
Thank
To
you.
all our viewers, I hope you found today's conversation beneficial, and to all those aspiring writers, I hope you find the inspiration to finally bring your book into writing, because it is only the first step which is hardest. So we will be back next week with one more inspiring writers from our state. Till then, keep following us at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course at the spacemedia.in website. Thank you so much. Pailing Cho.
जो आबोतानी का विवाह नाम से कहानी है,
जी जी,
इसमें मैंने लिखा कि संसार में सृष्टि की जब आरंभ हुई थी
जी,
तो सिची से पैदा हुए चीरे, चीरे से पैदा हुए रेबुक, रेबुक से बुगरे, बुगरे से रेनी यानी कि तानी, जो आबोतानी के नाम से मशहूर है। उन दिनों आबोतानी ही इस दुनिया में अकेले इंसान थे। आबोतानी ने तुरंत एक मछली का रूप धारण कर लिया और सुंदर सुंदर मछलियों के आसपास डुबकी लगा लगा कर उन्हें आकर्षित करने का प्रयास करने लगे।
ओके।